Monday of the 24th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, in giving this instruction, I do not praise the fact that your meetings are doing more harm than good. First of all, I hear that when you meet as a church, there are divisions among you, and to a degree, I believe it. There have to be factions among you, in order that also those who are approved among you may become known. When you meet in one place, then, it is not to eat the Lord's Supper, for in eating, each one goes ahead with his own supper, and one goes hungry, while another gets drunk. Do you not have houses in which you can eat and drink? Or do you show contempt for the church of God, and make those who have nothing feel ashamed? What can I say to you? Shall I praise you? In this matter, I do not praise you. For I received from the Lord what I also handed on to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night he was handed over, took bread, and, after he had given thanks, broke it and said, "This is my body that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way also the cup, after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, when you come together to eat, wait for one another." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "Proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes again." Sacrifice or oblation you wished not, but ears open to obedience you gave me. Burnt offerings or sin offerings you sought not. Then said I, "Behold, I come." Proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes again. In the written scroll it is prescribed for me, to do your will, O my God, is my delight, and your law is within my heart. Proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes again. I announced your justice in the vast assembly. I did not restrain my lips, as you, O Lord, know. Proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes again. May all who seek you exult and be glad in you, and may those who love your salvation say ever, "The Lord be glorified." Proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes again.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. When Jesus had finished all his words to the people, he entered Capharnaum. A centurion there had a slave who was ill and about to die, and he was valuable to him. When he heard about Jesus, he sent elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and save the life of his slave. They approached Jesus and strongly urged him to come, saying, "He deserves to have you come do this for him, for he loves our nation, and he built the synagogue for us." And Jesus went with them. But when he was only a short distance from the house, the centurion sent friends to tell him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you enter under my roof. Therefore, I did not consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and let my servant be healed. For I too am a person subject to authority, with soldiers subject to me. I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come here,' and he comes, and to a slave, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him, and turning, said to the crowd following him, "I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." When the messengers returned to the house, they found the slave in good health. The Gospel of the Lord.
Monday of the 24th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from 1 Corinthians 11:17-26 and 33. What is going on in this particular reading is the fact that the community is gathering for the Lord's Supper. It appears as if when they gather for the Eucharistic meal, it's an entire meal, just as Jesus celebrated it on Holy Thursday. The difficulty is some come early and they bring a lot of food with them, the rich people who have more leisure, whereas the poor come at the last minute, have hardly any food, and they don't share their food. Some go away stuffed to the gills while others go away starving. That is sinning against what they're celebrating, the Eucharist, which is supposed to be communion with God and communion with each other. Remember, there are those two dimensions of the Eucharist, the vertical dimension, communion with God, the horizontal dimension, communion with the community. And it's not that one is more important than the other. Both have to be lived. And so in this case, Paul emphasizes the horizontal dimension. Earlier, when he talked about eating food offered to idols, he emphasized the vertical dimension, that if we participate in the Eucharistic meal, we're in union with Jesus, we can't eat the pagan offerings. Here, what's emphasized is the horizontal dimension, that if we eat this meal, we have to be willing to share it. And in fact, Paul recalls the words of foundation at the first Eucharist. He speaks about how Jesus gave thanks, broke the bread, and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." He took the cup and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." Now, what Jesus was saying by saying, "This is my body, this is my blood," is what we call today real presence, that he was truly present. And in fact, remember in the Gospel of John, what he said was so disturbing to some people that they accused him of cannibalism. And that's how strong his words actually were, that he is expressing a mystery which we cannot fully understand, but which we can believe. The Gospel is from the Gospel of Luke chapter 7, verses 1 to 10. A centurion comes up to Jesus and says that his slave is at the point of death, and he asks Jesus to heal him. So Jesus is getting ready to go to visit the house of the centurion. What does the centurion say? "I understand what orders are like. I'm in charge of soldiers. Just say the word and he'll be healed." And Jesus' response, he heals this slave, and he also says that he's not seen such strong faith in any of Israel. The idea that we have to trust, that we truly believe that our prayers are effective, that they're not just words, but they're words that change reality. That we believe that Jesus really is involved with our daily life. It's not simply a consolation, but it's also something that transforms reality. The idea that some people who don't belong to our group might have stronger faith than we do. And so instead of looking at the outsiders, such as this centurion was, who was a pagan, and saying that we're superior to them, we should be ready to recognize that sometimes their faith puts us to shame, and we should learn from them and have the same courage that they have. And may God bless us.